air with a potentially dangerous night ahead for parts of California already underwater. Look at this. Evacuation orders in place with more downpours, more flooding, maybe even rare tornadoes in the forecast. We're going to take you live to where it's worst right now. Then breaking tonight, police taking somebody into custody after that deadly shooting at the University of Colorado Springs. What we know about the suspect and what else we're learning about the victims tonight. And in Texas, police begging for clues to try to find an 11-year-old girl who vanished on her way to school, what they're looking for specifically, and more on how the community is rallying around her family. Plus, you can see these bomb-sniffing dogs surrounding the luggage and a plane after a reported threat at Newark Airport. What we're learning so far tonight. Then spring training just started, but some players and fans are already upset. Why they're keeping their eye not on the ball, but on the uniform in the MLB a little bit later on in the show. Hey there, I'm Hallie, and right now millions of people in California are facing the threat of tornadoes and intense new flash floods tonight as this already saturated state gets soaked. Up to 5 inches of rain expected in some parts. You see it here, water rushing down a street as crews try to clear the roads to stop the flooding. Creeks swelling almost past their banks, streets becoming rivers. One freeway was partially shut down in the coastal city of Ventura. You can see water covering some of the lanes here. You see that, a couple of brave souls trying to fight their way through. Further north in the Bay Area, a huge chunk of the road just totally washed out. Officials in Santa Barbara, Monterey County, LA County put some people under evacuation warnings because this storm is just getting started. Up in the mountains, it's snow instead of rain, where the Sierra Nevada could get up to 5 feet of it. And in the Central Valley, people there are seeing what could be one of the most severe parts of this storm. We're watching for a lot of wind, hail, maybe even tornadoes. That is rare in California. All of it, of course, on the heels of a deadly downpour earlier this month that triggered big power outages and mudslides. We've got meteorologist Bill Karen standing by with the forecast, but I want to start with Dana Griffin, who's live for us in Los Angeles, because the rain, Dana, has started to shift, and I can't tell if it's raining where you are, but it looks like it's headed your way if it's not there already. Talk us through it.
Yeah, Hallie, we've actually had just constant rain all day. It's probably very light right now, so you can't really see it, and that's what we've experienced most of the day. This light to moderate, slow-moving storm that has impacted mostly right now Santa Barbara County, Ventura County, and here it is in LA County. As you can see behind me, this is the channel that takes water from the LA River out to sea. This is usually bone dry, so the fact that it is swiftly moving behind us usually gives us an indication of how much rain has fallen. Now, the concern is going to be over the next several hours and days is how much water accumulates and if it could, impact the already saturated soil that we have here in Southern California. Earlier this month, we had one of those atmospheric rivers slam this part of the state. We saw homes slide off their foundations, trees come down, debris, flooding, people having to be rescued, and unfortunately 3 people died in that latest storm. So right now the concern is reminding people that although this is a very light rain, it is a very continuous rain that is going to last for several hours and several days. So that is going to be the main concern and a reminder for people to be safe. Hallie?
You talk about it, Dana, the way that this state has gotten smoked already, right? These storms hitting just a couple of weeks ago. Now the ground is so saturated in some spots, and people seem particularly weary of this weather at this point. Talk about the way that Californians are trying to be equipped for this moving forward.
Yeah, and right now you've got officials across the city of Los Angeles and the county ready to respond to anything that happens, whether there's down trees, down power lines, flooding. You've got rescue crews that are standing by. We've already had one rescue, a swiftwater rescue in Sacramento, in the Sacramento area. This guy who had to cling to a tree for several hours. So a lot of people are just kind of weary from all of the rain that has hit the state. But it's kind of the reality that we're experiencing nowadays is, this time of year, we're seeing these sort of storms. And even one of our NBC meteorologists said that there's possible for tornadoes in California in those central plains, those flat zone areas, and that is not considered rare for this time of year because this is kind of the peak season for it. So obviously California needs as much rain as possible, but once we get so much, it can be inundating and could really cause some very difficult and deadly impacts here in the state. So officials are ready to respond. We know that for the city, the mayor says that they have already taken steps to kind of shore up some of those hills so that they don't come down during this particular storm. They've cleared out some of those, some areas so that it doesn't overflow. So we'll be watching and see what else comes of the storm. Hallie?
Dana Griffin, thanks. Bill Cairns, our meteorologist, is also watching, Bill. And so far, we haven't seen those tornadoes materialize, right? That's one of the biggest concerns at the moment.
And we're thankful for that. Storm Prediction Center actually said they're not going to issue a tornado watch. I think if any do form, it'll be extremely isolated. So it doesn't mean it can't happen, but it doesn't mean we're not expecting a bunch of them. Let's put it that way. So our storm, this is a long duration event, just sitting here spinning off the coast. The atmospheric river, here it is right there, came in last night and early this morning. That's when the bulk of the problems occurred with the heavy rain. One mountainous location outside of L.A. picked up 9 inches of rain. So we've already had really significant rainfall, and the highest rivers and creek levels have already occurred. But it doesn't mean the rain's completely over with, because it's still spinning off the coast. That's why we still have millions under flood alerts. Wind alerts is still 14 million. In the winter, highest of elevations, less than 1 million people. We still have a flash flood warning. This is the Hollywood Hills outside of Los Angeles. This is where the ground is just very unstable, because we did have the 4 to 8 to 9 inches earlier today. And also just north of Oxnard here, this area is still under a flash flood warning too, for the same reason. The rain has stopped, but they're still worried about landslides, mudslides, debris flows. 1 to 2 inches additional in the next 2 days in Los Angeles down the ocean side. Lesser amounts in areas like Santa Barbara, probably only about 1/4 to a half an inch. San Francisco, you still have more rain to come. And we are worried about, this is the region, if we're going to get thunderstorms this afternoon with small hail, that it could occur. So a lot of people have been asking, how unusual is this? Well, right now in Los Angeles, we're almost up to 1 foot of rain this February, mostly because of the big, huge storm 2 weeks ago. But we're now closing in on the February rainfall record, which, by the way, 1998 was one of the strongest El Niños we've ever had measured. So that's why when people say it's El Niño is coming, that's why everyone's like, uh-oh, California's in trouble, because they can get these one storm after another, and it really adds up. So this is the area that we are concerned with if we get isolated severe storms, Sacramento northwards. Looking at the radar right now, there's really not much in this region. We have been tracking one thunderstorm that was just north of San Francisco, but that is now weakened as it heads to the north. So we'll keep an eye on it, Hallie. I'll let you know if anything breaks. Hopefully, though, the tornado threat will be very minimal.
Bill Cairns, thanks for watching it all. Appreciate it. We're learning of an arrest, in the deadly shooting of 2 people in a dorm at the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs. Police say that this suspect is a 25-year-old man from Detroit. He's been booked on 2 counts of murder, charged with killing Samuel Knopp, a student at the university, and Celie Rain Montgomery, who was not a student. Police say it looks like everybody involved here might have known each other. Classes canceled today for a day of healing. Emily Aketa is joining us now. What else do we know about this suspect and how he was caught, Emily?
Hey there, Hallie. Well, as you can imagine, so much relief on site of the campus, Colorado Springs, the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs. Police have been searching for this suspect for several days since that Friday morning shooting that happened around 6 a.m. Police revealing that they took him into custody. 25-year-old Nicholas Jordan, they say, the murder suspect. They took him into custody just a few miles from the school campus around 8 a.m. today. He had been in a car. Still, the investigation very much active, but investigators are standing by their initial statements in that they believe that this was an isolated incident, that this was between parties, people who knew each other, but we still don't have any insight around the why, the motive in this shooting. Still panning out right now on the campus. While classes have been canceled, they have been taking part in what they deemed a healing walk. There were students, staff, police officers walking with flowers in memory of the victims. The victims were identified as 26-year-old Celie Montgomery and 24-year-old Sam Knopp. At one point, one of his good friends taking to the microphone, this is what he had to say.
Ever since I got to school here, he has been the person I've spent the most time with. My brother, my roommate, and my friend.
The emotion, the heartbreak there, just palpable. Samuel Knopp was a student at UCCS. Celie Montgomery, the other victim, she was not a student. She was a student previously at a local community college. That community college putting out a statement saying, in part, the Pueblo Community College family extends heartfelt condolences, going on to say these deaths and the ensuing unimaginable pain are happening much too often in an environment where teaching and learning should be our only concern. Still so many unanswered questions. We wait for additional updates, Hallie, from police.
Emily Aketa, thanks for staying on top of that one for us. Appreciate it. The police are basically begging for videos of a highway from right around the time an 11-year-old girl went missing last week. Right now, they seem optimistic they can find her. Watch.
I'm hoping and praying that she's still alive. I am not giving up hope that we'll be able to bring Audrey home.
This is out of Polk County, about an hour and a half north of Houston. Here's what we know. Nobody's seen Audrey Cunningham since Thursday morning, when officials say she should have gotten on the school bus, but she never showed up to class that day. Police say she was last seen in a black hoodie with white letters and black pants. Morgan Chesky is following this one for us from Dallas. Okay, so police say they have the man who they think last saw Audrey in custody, but they're not charging him yet. Why not?
Yeah, Hallie, they're being very careful not to charge Don Stephen McDougal right now because investigators want to have as much time as possible to make their case and try to find Audrey on their own. Here is what we do know, though, about the man that they are calling a person of interest who was arrested on unrelated charges recently. Those charges that he was arrested on, I should add, Hallie, are aggravated assault. And we do know that Don Stephen McDougal is a 42-year-old, arrested, of course, on Friday. We mentioned that prior charge. And detectives say that he was driving a 2003 Chevy Suburban, navy blue, that was potentially involved in this disappearance. And right now they are calling him a person of interest, but not calling him a suspect. We do know that, according to our Houston affiliate KPRC, McDougal had posted multiple items saying essentially everything must go on Facebook shortly after Audrey was reported missing on Thursday evening by her family. And right now they are, despite having him in custody, they are, as you mentioned, turning to the public, calling for help. I want you to hear the plea from what the sheriff had to say a short time ago. Take a listen.
It does us no good to prematurely charge him now, and then 3-4 months from now, it get tossed out of court because we were moving too fast. She deserves us taking our time. She deserves us making sure that we do it right. She deserves to have her voice to be heard.
Now, as for how authorities were able to track down McDougal, a sharp-eyed convenience store worker recognized his photo that was shared on the news, and she was the one who contacted authorities, who then were able to track him down. She said that she could never forget that face when he stood in front of her and bought just a couple items late last week. As for where the investigation goes from here, they are trying to see and retrace the steps of that dark blue navy Suburban, Hallie, and they're hoping that someone somewhere can shed some insight into where Audrey might be. Right now, again, they're only calling McDougal a person of interest, alluding to the fact that there may be someone else out there who has critical information that could help bring this 11-year-old back home. Hallie?
And right now, just a race against time to try to find her. Morgan Chesky in Dallas, thank you. Overseas now, the widow of Alexei Navalny telling her fellow Russians to follow her as she takes steps into her husband's shoes, promising to keep up his battle against Vladimir Putin and demanding real answers about his death.
I will continue the work of Alexei Navalny. I will continue to fight for our country, and I urge you to stand next to me. By killing Alexei, Putin killed half of me, half of my heart and half of my soul. But I still have the other half, and it tells me that I have no right to give up.
Navalny died suddenly Friday in Russian custody, with his legal team saying his mother was denied access to her son's body. So that's what you're looking at here. This is her trying to get into the morgue there. She says Russian authorities are stalling for time to try to give any potential poisons that may be inside Navalny's body time to disappear. Remember, the line from Russia is that Navalny collapsed and died after taking a walk around the remote penal colony where he'd been imprisoned. But both Navalny's supporters and a whole lot of world leaders, including President Biden, say they just don't buy that, putting the blame directly on Russian President Vladimir Putin. NBC's Matt Bodner is joining us now. Obviously, Matt Navalny's wife blames Putin as well, making clear she wants to now take over for her husband in this opposition fight. You have to think that puts a huge target on her back, too, no?
Absolutely right, Hallie. I mean, I think it's safe to say that this is a very brutal regime, and they have demonstrated multiple times over the past 2 decades that they are very comfortable assassinating political opponents both at home and abroad. Just to run through a few of those abroad in recent years, Sergei Skripal here in the United Kingdom, another one in the United Kingdom, Alexander Litvinenko years earlier. There was a recent assassination in Germany, for example, where Yulia Navalnaya is understood to be staying. So there's obviously a lot of concern to step up and take this kind of mantle from her husband. I also want to point out that Navalny's team is also abroad, generally in Europe, and they kind of keep restricted information about their movements, all for these security concerns. And I think what really heightens the potential concern here for Yulia Navalnaya is that she is walking directly in and, again, taking this mantle from her husband that we already know got him killed. And, she said a lot today. She's actually, without missing a beat, walking right into his work, saying that they're already investigating what happened here, who killed Navalny, and saying they have information that they're going to present to soon. Let's take a listen to her explaining this to us.
We know exactly why Putin killed Alexei 3 days ago. We'll tell you about it soon. We will definitely find out who exactly and how they exactly committed this crime. We will call their names and show their faces.
So this is obviously a very big statement to make, talking directly into that concern about her security, but it is such a vintage Navalny move. It's really quite incredible to watch her step up right into it. I recall after he was poisoned, after he recovered in Germany, before he went back to Russia, he released an investigation into his own assassination, teased in very similar terms, in which he actually got an FSB officer on the phone who's understood to have been involved in that assassination. Navalny was playing a senior FSB officer. It was essentially a prank phone call, and got this man to admit to what the FSB did. So I'm very much looking forward to what Yulia Navalnaya and Navalny's team have prepared for us here.
Can you give us a sense, Matt, just quickly here, on the atmosphere in Russia right now, particularly as compared to other points under Putin, because this death has made headlines around the world. I mean, it is huge international news. It is also huge inside Russian borders.
Absolutely. I think the mood in Russia, based on conversations I've had with Russians I still know on the ground, is in a sense despondent. I think there wasn't a lot of hope to begin with going into Friday. What little hope I think Russians who oppose the war, oppose the regime, felt existed in Navalny. That's at least certainly, I think, what the Kremlin was trying to do here. With everything they've done to Navalny, is kill this hope that he represented. And we've seen, a lot of debate over the weekend, kind of in the Russian exile community, some Russians still in Russia, about how accepting this kind of despair that is clearly meant to be felt in the wake of this this presumed assassination, the resistance is to not feel that, is to keep moving forward. And I think there's huge risks to doing that in Russia. Once upon a time, 3 years ago, when Navalny returns to Russia, we saw historic protests in Moscow, for example, the largest in 10 years. And that was 50,000 people estimated on the streets of Moscow protesting his arrest when he returned. So, you can see in the numbers of people who are taking the risk has dramatically declined. The penalties they face for stepping out on the streets have dramatically increased. We're seeing a lot of very arbitrary prosecutions in Russia, and it looks a lot more and more like a police state every day. Hallie?
Matt Bodner, thank you very much for that. And as we talk about Russia, it looks like after months of asking, Ukraine is now closer to getting some long-range missiles from the U.S. to try to use against the Kremlin, according to 2 U.S. officials talking with NBC News exclusively. Late last year, the U.S. started to give Ukraine this older, medium-range kind of missile, but now the Biden administration is apparently leaning towards sending a longer-range version, according to those officials. The missiles would let Ukraine hit farther inside the Crimean Peninsula. You see it at the bottom of your screen there. It's currently held by Russia, but there's a big roadblock. That military aid for Ukraine is kind of in limbo because some Republicans in Congress, specifically many allies of former President Trump, don't really want to green light that money. All of it happening as Russia says its troops have captured a key Ukrainian city in the east, drastically shifting the front line of this war. Aaron Gilchrist is joining us now. Talk about the significance of these particular missiles at this particular moment and what the options are if this aid money doesn't go through for Ukraine.
Well, the Ukrainians say that these particular missiles we're talking about now, Hallie, would be critical to their effort to be able to stand up to Russia much longer. Obviously, you noted that the Ukrainians have pulled out of this small town, Avdiivka, in the eastern part of Ukraine. And this really, I think, speaks to the urgency of the moment. We know that at the end of December, the Biden administration said that it was no longer going to be able to send these aid packages to the Ukrainians. And the Ukrainian foreign minister was in Germany this weekend at the Munich Security Conference and said that they need the missiles, these long-range missiles, to be able to destroy Russian capabilities inside Ukraine, but in these occupied territories where the Russians have ammunitions depots and logistical capabilities set up. They want to be able to hit deeper into these spaces, the Ukrainians do, in order to try to take out Russian capabilities and to even out the playing field as far as this war goes. So what happens if there isn't this supplemental, this additional aid that the Congress has been been looking at for Ukraine for the last several months now? Well, the Defense Department says there isn't really a plan B here. If they're not able to get more money to replace any munitions or any weapons that they might send to the Ukrainians, then they really don't have another option to go with here. The Pentagon spokesperson said right at the end of the year, as that money was running out, that they would have to make some tough decisions, meaning do they send things that are in the U.S. arsenal that could be sent over and then not be able to have those things available for the U.S. to use, or do they leave Ukraine to fend for themselves? The Defense Department putting out a statement just here in the last couple of days, and I'll read part of it to you here. It says, without a supplemental funding bill, we do not currently have a security assistance package to give to Ukraine. At the same time, I won't speculate on the contents of any future packages if a supplemental were to be passed. And yet, Hallie, we know that passing that supplemental really is critical now, as we've seen already Ukraine have to pull back from one of its territories here in the last couple of days. Hallie?
Aaron Gilchrist live for us there outside the White House. Aaron, thank you. Tonight, historic hearings at The Hague, hearings that the Israeli prime minister now says his country will not recognize, as more than a dozen international judges consider the legality of the Israel-Hamas war. Earlier, the Palestinian foreign minister opened what's going to be a week of these hearings by saying Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. Israel says it's defending itself after the terror attack against it by Hamas on October 7th. Now, all eyes are turning to Ramadan, which begins in a few weeks, because Israel says it wants all hostages released by then, March 10th. Otherwise, they're threatening to attack Rafah. You see it on the map there, the southernmost city in Gaza. More than 1 million Gazans are trying to find shelter from the war there. Remember, it's not just this specific area we've been talking about. This war has been widening across the Middle East. There have been concerns about that. And what may be the latest example, U.S. officials say an American drone has crashed in Yemen. It's not clear why. Raf Sanchez is following these headlines for us live from Tel Aviv. Let's talk about this sort of March 10th deadline here. Based on where hostage negotiations stand right now, doesn't seem super likely. Is there potential for a reason to be optimistic here?
Doesn't look super likely, Hallie. These negotiations seem stalled. CIA Director Bill Burns was in Cairo last week. He was sitting with officials from Egypt, Qatar, and Israel. There was real hope that we might see a breakthrough, the first ceasefire deal since late November, the first hostages coming out as a result of negotiations since then. These talks appear to have ground to a halt. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu pulling his negotiators out of Cairo, bringing them back to Israel, saying that Hamas's demands at this point on the number of prisoners that Israel needs to release from its jails, on ending the war altogether instead of a temporary ceasefire. Netanyahu says these demands are, quote, delusional, and that there is no point in talking until Hamas shifts its position. A lot of concern worldwide about this fighting dragging on into the Islamic holy month of Ramadan. And Hallie, it is worth noting it is not just Gaza that there is concern about. Israel is considering restrictions on Muslim worshippers at the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem, third holiest site in Islam. And there's real worry that Jerusalem, which has been relatively quiet throughout this war, could see an eruption of violence around that mosque. Hallie.
As we're watching that, what do we know about this American drone shot down in Yemen?
So two U.S. officials tell our colleague Courtney Kube it is not clear at this point whether this drone was shot down. It went down near the port city of Hodeidah in western Yemen. That is in Houthi-held territory. And what it underscores, Hallie, whether or not the Houthis shot this drone down, they remain defiant. The U.S., with help from the U.K., has been bombing them for weeks now, both strategic strikes against their facilities, also kind of ad hoc strikes against individual missiles here and there. And the Houthis continue firing at commercial shipping in the Red Sea. They do not appear deterred, and it does not at this point seem like the Biden administration has a real strategy to get them to stop. Hallie?
Raf Sanchez, live for us in Tel Aviv. Thank you. We got a lot more to get to coming up here on the show, including some new research finding this really common vitamin, maybe even one that you take, could come with some major heart risks. We'll explain why. Plus, the closing statement by Nikki Haley to voters in South Carolina as we are closing in now on that state's key primary. We'll explain how she's making her case and the bar she's set for herself. So this new study out today links this increased risk of heart disease and stroke with something that's in a lot of the multivitamins you can buy in the store, something a lot of people take every day, vitamin B3. also known as niacin. It's been recommended by doctors to help lower cholesterol. And it's pretty common in the Western diet. We get it in stuff like meat, fish, nuts, beans, brown rice, and fortified cereals. Researchers say it's that last one, fortified cereal, that may be the problem, because the average American is getting too much niacin, nearly 3 times the amount that's recommended you have every day. Dr. Kapita Patel is joining us now. So this is an interesting one, right? Yeah. Because in some ways it turns out there may be too much of a good thing here. Explain that.
Yeah, it is. So niacin actually helps us take food and make energy in our bodies.
So we need it.
That's a good thing. But what researchers are finding is that possibly the byproduct of digesting the niacin creates something that triggers inflammation and causes heart disease and strokes. So getting to the too much can be a bad thing. And it is exactly as you point out, Hallie. It's the fortified cereals, also in breads and a lot of grains. That's why we're trying to recommend people look at the labels to see how much niacin is in there and in any multivitamin that people are taking.
Isn't fortified cereal just like basically most cereal?
Every cereal. Yeah. And it's what you tell, honestly, for years, we tell people to take these fortified cereals so they can get niacin, because in previous decades, people were not getting enough niacin and they were having problems. So we want to prevent that. And we thought niacin would be good for cholesterol. So it helps to lower cholesterol, but as you point out, some of it, if it's toxic amounts, can be too bad.
So now the pendulum has swung in the other direction here, and the researchers on this study tell NBC News they don't know where to draw the line specifically between healthy and unhealthy amounts of niacin. They've got to do some more research on that. So while they're all figuring out, while these experts are doing that work, should we be not taking multivitamins? Should we be watching how much cereal you eat? What's a takeaway?
We should be looking at how much you're getting in a day. Okay. So we know that the average adult needs about, if you're not pregnant, about 14 milligrams of what we call niacin equivalent. So you can look on any label, and if you're getting 2 to 3 times that amount, that's probably what all of us are getting because of the fortification and cereals and other things and a multivitamin. Yeah. But some people are getting 40 times that amount. That's too much. So you definitely want to look at the ingredients on your multivitamin. The most common range is 20 to 40 milligrams. Anything higher than that, I would pause, talk to your doctor, and also see if there's some reason that you could be in toxicity. It's not just heart attacks and strokes. You can see early signs like low blood pressure and some other symptoms. Wow. Absolutely go to your doctor and see if it's something you should be tested for.
Dr. Patel, thank you so much. Great breakdown. Appreciate it. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, some kind of a threat was made toward an Air Canada flight today, according to officials. The plane landed safely at Newark International Airport. Nobody was reported hurt, but look at this. You can see police dogs, security searching the plane. They're sniffing all the luggage around there. Officials say they cleared the aircraft, but they're still investigating. As you see the dog being loaded into the cargo hold there, they're still investigating what exactly happened. Number 2, the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of New York is condemning the funeral of a renowned transgender activist at St. Patrick's Cathedral. Cecilia Gentili also advocated for sex workers and people with HIV. A senior church official calls the service a scandal, saying they were not aware of her identity when they agreed to host the services. Gentili's family denies they deceived the church. Number 3, one Disney Channel star adding CEO to her resume, Bridget Mendler from the show Good Luck Charlie, launching a startup called Northwood Space. Mendler studied at MIT and Harvard Law and says she wants to build a data highway between Earth and space. Her company's already got about $6 million in the early round of funding from investors. Number 4, want to see the next solar eclipse? Do you want to see it from the sky? Well, guess what? Delta's offering a special flight from Austin to Detroit on April 8th that's supposed to give you the best view of the eclipse. The plane itself is going to have some big windows, apparently. This will be the last total eclipse we'll see in North America until 2044. How do I get my tickets? Let's do it. Number 5, in a new interview, the family of former President Jimmy Carter says his spirit is as strong as ever as he marks 1 year in hospice care. His wife, Rosalind, died in November. Now, at age 99, Carter is the oldest living president in history. He's survived brain and liver cancer. We are now just 5 days out from South Carolina's Republican primaries, where the state's former governor, Nikki Haley, is going to make what could be her last stand against former President Trump. And tonight, she's going after Mr. Trump for his comments around the death of Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny. We talked about that earlier in the show. And Haley's also blasting Mr. Trump's apparent support of Vladimir Putin over NATO. Listen.
That means Trump is siding with a thug. He sided with a tyrant who's made no bones about wanting to destroy America. And you're going to side with something like that over the allies who stood with us at 9/11? What are we doing?
Hallie there, likely referring to comments like this one from the former president earlier today, where he essentially seemed to compare Navalny's death to his own political and legal issues, with no mention of Putin, whom President Biden has blamed for Navalny's death. Mr. Trump's got a fairly safe at the moment at least, double-digit lead in every South Carolina poll that's been out right now. But Haley's busy schedule shows she's not giving up, perhaps hoping this louder, sharper message against Mr. Trump is going to help her Saturday. NBC's Dasha Burns is following this one for us. Okay, so closing argument. Let's talk about it, because it feels like this NATO foreign policy Russia issue is at the center of it right now. What's interesting is that what Nikki Haley just said, what we just heard, kind of sounds like something President Biden might say, right? Talk about the rationale here from the Haley camp and how much GOP voters are looking at this issue.
Not much is the answer I would give you from all of my time on the campaign trail, Hallie. And this is what's so interesting about Haley. This is what makes her a great general election candidate, right? There are a whole lot of Democrats, moderates, moderate Republicans that are absolutely on board with this. But she really is using the playbook of Republicans past, or maybe even modern conservative Democrats, but not the GOP majority, not the base that she needs to win over, especially in South Carolina, which is a state that since she left office, since she left the governor's mansion there, has become much redder, much more MAGA, much more Trump country. So issues like NATO, like funding Ukraine, all of her foreign policy chops, while they may resonate in a general election, it's why she's doing so well head-to-head with Biden in those polls, don't resonate with a Republican primary voter, and it's why she's got an almost impossibly large hill to climb here.
Well, you talk about that hill. Nikki Haley has set her own bar for where she needs to be in climbing that hill, right? She is expectation management goes. She has been pretty clear about what the expectation is. I want to remind people of what she told our friend and colleague Kristen Welker on Meet the Press not too long ago.
We started with 2% in Iowa. We ended up with 20%. We got to New Hampshire. We needed to do better than that. And we did. We got 43% of the vote. Now we're going into South Carolina. We need to be stronger than what we did in New Hampshire. And so that's certainly what we need to do.
Okay, so she's saying, Dasha, we need to be stronger than what we did in New Hampshire, where she got 43%. So she's looking at, let's be generous, like at 43, 44%. Let's even say 40%. She hasn't broken 40 in a single poll recently. It is possible, right, that Saturday night, despite Haley's campaign insisting that they're in this through Super Tuesday, it is possible that Saturday night ends up being perhaps the last stand in this Republican primary.
Yeah, look, we've heard this story before. We saw it just a couple of months ago with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. He said he was going to win Iowa. Then he came up way, way short. Even after that, he said, hey, we're going to go on. We're going to go to New Hampshire. We'll go to Super Tuesday. A few days later, he was out of the race. So candidates have to say what they have to say in the moment, but that does not mean that's the reality that we're going to see. And the thing that Nikki Haley needs to think about, she is young. She has a potential political future. If you lose by that big a margin, say, you know, what you were talking about, say she even gets to 40 points, right? Still, a big margin in your home state, that could potentially harm your future political chances, not just here in the primary. So that's something important for her to think about. And if she decides to stay in even longer through Super Tuesday, that just gives Trump more and more opportunity to knock her.
It does create an interesting split screen here, Dasha, because on the one hand, you've got Nikki Haley in some ways fighting for her political life at the moment. On the other hand, you have former President Trump selling gold sneakers now, right? I mean, it says a lot about the state of the race.
Yeah, it says that Trump thinks he's in the general election at this point. He's kind of been pivoting towards that ever since Iowa. He's been taking on Biden more and more heavily. You see him attacking the president at his rallies, not even talking very much about Nikki Haley. The term bird brain, which is a nickname he'd given her, not hearing much about that because he seems to have largely moved on, even as Haley has basically over the last week, Hallie, unleashed a full arsenal of attacks, be it NATO, be it the border, military families. She's throwing all she can at him right now, but he's Teflon Don at the moment, according to the polls. Hallie?
Dasha Burns, thank you very much. We're going to have all of it, of course, covered on Saturday night with our South Carolina primary coverage. I will see you there 6 o'clock Eastern on Saturday, joined by our team fanned out across the state, by our analysts, by our political pros. That's right here on NBC News Now. I will see you Saturday night. I'll also see you in just a couple of minutes, because when we come back, some new questions. After 3 first responders were killed after responding to a domestic violence call, what police say went down. Plus, look at this, what officials think led to this home explosion in Michigan. That's the aftermath. Tonight, we're learning new details on who might be responsible for the deaths of 3 first responders who are helping what officials call, in their words, a family in danger. Remember what happened here. Local police called to a house in Minnesota early yesterday for what they called a domestic violence situation. Somebody had barricaded himself inside a home with a gun and with family members, including 7 kids. When the shooting started, the 3 men you see here were killed, these 3 first responders. One other officer was shot, but is expected to be okay. The man inside was eventually reported dead, the family safe. Now, sources tell our local NBC affiliate in Minneapolis, CARE, that that man is 38-year-old Shannon Gooden. And court documents show he wasn't even allowed to have a gun in the first place because of a previous conviction. NBC News has not been able to independently confirm the identity. But we also don't know what led to all of this in the first place. Adrian Broaddus is joining us now from Burnsville, Minnesota. And Adrian, in just the last couple of minutes, we are getting new information, specifically that the deaths of these first responders have now officially been ruled homicides.
Yes, one of the officers was shot in the chest. The firefighter paramedic was shot in his arm and torso, and the other officer had multiple gunshot wounds. As you mentioned, Hallie, these first responders showed up to help a family in danger after that domestic violence call. This all started to unfold Sunday morning, just before 2 a.m., right around 1:50 a.m. That's when the first responders were sent to this home here in Burnsville, Minnesota. It's about 20 miles south or so of Minneapolis. When they arrived, that man, the shooter, who you just identified, was barricaded inside of that home with 7 children. The youngest was only 2 years old, and the oldest was 15. Investigators say other medics were warned to stay back because of their safety, because when officers arrived, they were also fired up on. And as we know, 3 first responders were shot and killed, Hallie.
The community has, in so many ways, tried to rally around the family members of the 3 men that you see on screen here, Paul Elmstrand, Matthew Rouge, Adam Finseth, right?
Yes, this community has come together. We've been seeing people show up here at this memorial outside of the police station. It's growing. They're hurting, but they're also hugging each other. And that, some of them say, is comforting. Listen in to what some folks had to tell us today.
They put their lives on the line every day for us. And sometimes we take it for granted, and we don't know how important they are until we lose one. And for it being so close to home, it sucks.
It's very sad on what happened, and I just came here to, bring some flowers.
And another officer who was injured but is expected to recover, we found out a short time ago, has been released from the hospital. Inside of that home, investigators say they found loads of ammunition and lots of high-powered weapons. Hallie.
Adrian brought us a community just reeling today. Thank you. NBC News covers hundreds of other stories every day, and because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. Out of our Midwest bureau, at least 1 person is dead. Multiple others have been hurt after a shooting at a Waffle House this morning in Indianapolis. Officials say it started with some kind of a fight between a couple of groups. They're looking at security footage. They're trying to figure out whether any of the people who ended up hurt fired any of the shots. Also out of our Midwest bureau, 1 person's hurt after this house explosion in Michigan. Look at the aftermath here. It just collapsed, basically right into the basement. Officials think propane was being used in the house, basically to heat the house when this explosion happened. And out of our Washington bureau, the Washington Nationals are no longer for sale, with the owner, Mark Lerner, telling the Washington Post his family decided it's not the time or the place for it. Remember, this comes a couple of years after Lerner said the family was looking into selling when the team was going through a rough patch after its World Series win back in 2019. Coming up, it can be pretty hard for Black patients to find a cardiologist who looks like them. We're looking at the push to change that. Coming up in tonight's original. So tonight's original now with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been watching. And tonight, it's the new moves by the American Academy of Cardiology, because Black Americans are 30% more likely than white Americans to die of heart disease. But when they go for an exam, odds are their heart doctor is not Black. It's because the number of Black cardiologists, especially women, is extremely low, with experts now looking for ways to change that. Here's Dr. Natalie Azar.
How are you doing? Good.
Dr. Mary Branch has spent a decade learning one of the most challenging specialties in medicine. Hours in the hospital and clinic to become a cardiologist. And she's in a rare group, female Black cardiologists.
Cardiology is not only challenging from a learning perspective, it's just physically very, very hard. You're dealing with life and death scenarios on a consistent basis.
The specialty can be hard for anyone, but for Branch, it goes past just medicine. She wants to be there for her community. A recent study shows that just 3% of all cardiologists in the U.S. are African American.
It's pretty abysmal. When I talk about the numbers of hypertension, obesity, the importance of establishing relationships, how many people we need to make those changes, that's scary.
When patients see someone that looks like them, there is often an established trust and connection.
We share a culture with these folks. They don't have to explain a lot of things about their culture, where they come from.
African Americans are 30% more likely to die from heart disease than white Americans. Nikita Oxner knows this firsthand. Her brother died from heart disease caused by high blood pressure. And she's seen Dr. Branch for more than a year, once she learned of her heart murmur through a sleep study.
Talking to a Black cardiologist just kind of calmed my fears, because I'm talking to someone who knows about the health issues within my community, right, who's very experienced and also very calming.
Oxner had a small battery-powered device called an implantable cardioverter defibrillator, or ICD, placed into her chest. Before the operation, she was afraid, but trusted her doctor.
When it came to getting this ICD, she called it a little hospital or little emergency room in your chest.
Now with the ICD in place, she's getting back to how life was before.
She's guided me through this entire process, and now I'm on the other side of it.
Now, medical groups say the next step is to see more stories like Nikita's.
Is the American College of Cardiology starting any initiatives to address this?
We actually have a program called the Young Scholars Program.
The program starts in high school, spanning through college to help recruit more Black students and minorities into cardiology.
It gives them a very nice sort of supportive feeling that there are resources out there to kind of make it to the next step.
Becoming a cardiologist, like Dr. Branch.
It was something that was implanted in my heart. Every day you have impacted somebody's life and extended their life in some way. That is just profound.
Dr. Azar is joining us now. Dr. Natalie, you talk about the numbers, right? It's just astonishing. Only 3% of cardiologists are Black. Talk about the metrics here for this Young Scholars program. Do they have a quantifiable number or goal they're trying to hit?
You know, that's such a great question. And the answer is no, not really. You know, I asked Dr. Eccles what his best guess was in terms of the time frame that we could see sort of a sea shift. And, you know, we kind of both said it's probably going to be at least a generation. You know, he spoke a lot about the social determinants of health, which we all know, and sort of this disadvantage that a lot of communities of color start off with at a really, really young age, which is why this program is so amazing, because it's really trying to get kids excited from the earliest possible time when to plant that seed about science and medicine, and specifically cardiology. Yeah. And there's a lot of great people who are working on this initiative with him, and I do expect the numbers to change, but I think it's going to take some time, Hallie, just like a lot of these things. But I think the effort is definitely there, and clearly the need is there. He spoke a lot about something called concordant care, which is when you look at your doctor, you can see something in them that's familiar, and it works both ways, and it really does make a difference for patients and their outcomes, Hallie.
Dr. Natalie Azar, thank you so much for bringing us that story, for shining a light on this. Thanks. Still to come, why the new Major League Baseball jerseys are going viral for all the wrong reasons. Baseball fans, some of them players furious tonight, saying MLB is kicking off spring training with something that is not a good look. Literally. We're talking about the league's new jerseys. Check it out side by side here. This is one example from the Seattle Mariners. You got the new ones here on the right, old ones on the left. You see the MLB logo. This is what people are upset about, right? They're saying like the MLB logo kind of crowds it a little bit. It moved down. The names are a lot smaller on the new ones. The numbers are pressed on instead of stitched on. Like, listen, this is subtle stuff. But the changes did not lower the cost at all. If you want to wear what the players wear, it's still going to cost you something like $400. And even some of those players are mad, roasting these jerseys, saying the color's off, that they don't fit right, like they're not custom anymore to their body shapes, even that they look like a Walmart jersey. Kurt Badenhausen covers sports business for Sportico. This isn't simply a matter of optics or the fit, right? There is a huge business behind this from Nike and Fanatics, because players, fans, teams, they all invest a lot of money in making sure they have the look, right?
Yeah, you go to any baseball game, you see what a big business jerseys are. You have people decked out throughout the stadium wearing these jerseys. This is a multi-billion-dollar business across sports. And for Nike and Fanatics, this is certainly big business. Nike signed on in 2019, $1 billion deal over 10 years. So they engineered and designed these jerseys. Fanatics manufactured them. So they're both in the doghouse right now with Major League Baseball players.
And by the way, this isn't something that is just like people are grumbling about kind of on a low level. The roasting has reached the highest level of Major League Baseball, with the commissioner now having to come out to defend these jerseys. And the big picture here, right? And you mentioned that the company, Fanatics, is here to stay. You talked about that $1 billion MLB deal after the company bought the old uniform supplier back in 2017. So no matter how much fans may say like they don't like them, they're not going anywhere.
They're definitely not going anywhere. Fanatics is 100% here to stay. They have the league licensing deal with Major League Baseball, NFL, NHL, NBA, F1, USGA. I mean, you name it, Fanatics is basically the only spot right now for licensing. But Rob Manfred is correct. Any change in baseball gets almost immediately pushback, and particularly the uniforms, the Yankee pinstripes and the Dodger. All these things are steeped in history. So any kind of changes, you're going to have pushback. But players are saying that they like the lightweight feel. They just look cheap. That's the problem here.
But you're still paying $400, right?
Well, that's the problem. Looking cheap is okay if it costs you $29.99. But for an authentic jersey to spend over $400, and you're looking at something that looks like a replica jersey and a knockoff. So Fanatics has been the crosshairs for a long time. Fans aren't necessarily always that happy with the product. They feel like it's cheaper than some of the licensed goods that they're used to buying in previous decades, but they've absolutely cornered the market. So they're the really only game in town.
Kurt Badenhausen, always good to see you, our friend over there at Sportico. Appreciate it. Thank you. That does it for us for this hour. We've got a lot more coverage starting right now. We are coming on the air with a potentially dangerous night ahead for parts of California, already underwater. Evacuation orders in place with more downpours, more flooding, maybe even rare tornadoes in the forecast. We'll take you live to where it's worst right now. Then, breaking tonight, police taking somebody into custody after that deadly shooting at the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs. What we know about this suspect and what else we're learning now about the victims. And in Texas, police begging for clues to find an 11-year-old girl who vanished on her way to school. What they're looking for specifically, and more on how the community's rallying around her family. Plus, take a look at this. Some bomb-sniffing dogs around a bunch of luggage, around a plane at Newark Airport. What we're learning so far tonight about this reported threat. Then, an alarming new study that links a higher risk of heart disease to something that's in the multivitamins a lot of people take every day. We'll talk about why too much of a good thing could be a bad thing later on in the show. Hey there, I'm Hallie, and right now millions of people in California face the threat of tornadoes and intense new flash floods tonight as that already saturated state gets soaked. Up to 5 inches of rain expected in some parts. Look at this. You see the water rushing down a street, crews trying to clear the roads to stop the flooding, creeks swelling nearly past their banks. I mean, listen, streets becoming rivers. You see it. And then we're about to show you this freeway that's partially shut down in Ventura. That's along the coast. Water covering several lanes here. You see this picture? You have a couple of folks trying to get through right on the shoulder there, but very scary stuff. In the Bay Area, a chunk of road just washed away totally. Officials in Santa Barbara, Monterey County, Los Angeles County have put some people under evacuation warnings because this storm is only just getting started. Up in the mountains, it's not rain, but snow. The Sierra Nevadas could get up to 5 feet of it. And in the Central Valley, people there are seeing what could be one of the most severe parts of this storm. We're watching for issues of wind, hail, possibly maybe tornadoes. That's really rare in California. All of this on the heels of a deadly downpour earlier this month that triggered big power outages and mudslides. We have meteorologist Bill Karen standing by with the forecast and where this storm is headed. But I want to get to Dana Griffin first in Los Angeles. She's live for us there. May not be heavy rain, Dana, but the bottom line, it is still rain. It is still coming down yet again in a place that's not used to so much of it.
Exactly, and that's the concern because of this long-duration, slow-moving storm system is a concern that already saturated ground is going to become more saturated, and that's what leads to the landslides, the mudslides, and other concerns for flash flooding. Right now, we're just seeing a lighter but continuous rainfall here behind us. As you can see, the LA River Channel flowing steadily behind us. Sometimes we've seen this all the way up to this wall, so that shows us that this particular storm is not as heavy as we've seen before, especially the storm that hit earlier this month. But Ventura, Santa Barbara, LA counties, still some under flash flood watch, because we've had 2 to 5 inches of rainfall in some parts already, and overnight another 1 to 3 inches. I want to show you this video out of Sacramento. This was the second rescue today. There was a swiftwater rescue this morning for a guy who was clinging to a tree for hours. This one, as a group of workers were heading to work, they drove over this water-covered road, got stuck, and as you can see, the Sacramento Metro Fire Department there rescuing them from their car. And this has been very frustrating for a lot of first responders, and listen to why.
It's what we preach every single storm. Turn around, don't drown. People think they can make it through, and they push the limits of their vehicle, and they can't make it through, and then they require rescue to get out of that situation.
Yeah, and in that case, Hallie, officials say that the water was several feet high.
It's not just a risk to the people, it seems, Dana. There's also a risk to the infrastructure here, which in California isn't really equipped for these kinds of storms back to back like this.
Yeah, in some cases they're not. Today, luckily, the storm has been much lighter compared to the one that we saw earlier today. But crews still on standby. We heard from the mayor today who said that they've got things in place to respond for down trees, down power lines, flooding, power outages. So they know what these type of storms can do to cities like Los Angeles that aren't equipped to get so much water during such a short amount of time. They've already seen several landslides. They've had to shut down parts of highways already. So there is a concern here, and that's why they ask people to not drive through flooded roadways and to not drive if you don't have to, because it just puts more strain on the resources that need to respond elsewhere. Hallie?
Dana Griffin live for us there in a rainy and wet L.A. Thank you. Meteorologist Bill Karen is joining us now. So is all this just an impact of El Nino, Bill? Is that what's driving so much of this wet weather?
Yeah, El Nino doesn't cause these storms, but El Nino leads to more storms like this, if that kind of makes sense. So the warm Pacific Ocean will breed more of these storms, and that's what we're looking at. And the thing we've been wondering all day long is, will we actually get tornadoes in California, which are fairly rare. They happen occasionally. Today we've been one of those days for the setup, and this was the area that we were watching. In yellow here, maybe isolated in the green. We could get what we call supercell thunderstorms. You associate those with like the tornadoes in the springtime in the middle of the country in the plains, but this time that we'd call low-topped ones. They don't last long, and they may be able to spin up little tornadoes. So we've been watching that, and so far none of that has been reported, which is great, but we're still in the middle of the afternoon. Still got a couple hours to go. Here's a thunderstorm moving right over the top of the southern portions of San Francisco. This will head up near the airport here and cross into Oakland shortly. Maybe a little bit of lightning with this and small hail. In the area that we were concerned with, the Sacramento Valley region, here's Sacramento here, just some little showers going through. We haven't seen any organized thunderstorms, so that's great. So here's the storm. You can clearly see where it looks like a cinnamon bun out here spinning off the coast. And this is more moisture that's going to head up into Southern California. That's why we're in a little bit of a break now with this storm after the pouring rain early. And then we're going to get some rain returning later on tonight and into tomorrow. That's why our flood watches continue for the next about 36 hours. Wind alerts too, and even some winter weather alerts out of this storm. Here's the additional rainfall, about 1 to 2 inches. So it's not going to be like, 10 inches like what we saw with that huge storm, but some areas have already picked up about 4 to 6 inches in the mountains, and we're going to get additional rainfall on top of it, and that's why they're worried about the landslides, the mudslides, the rock slides, that sort of thing. And here's that rainfall to the north that we're expecting in the next couple hours. We showed you the stat before, and Hallie, I thought we were going to get up into 5th place overall, but we're not quite there. This already, with about 10 days left in February, remember this is the leap year, we are only have about 2 inches to go for the wettest February in Los Angeles history. So we got this storm, maybe another inch, and then we got another storm possibly Sunday into Monday. That one looks a little weaker than this one, but we may get there. And the snow, I'm sure we'll show you pictures in the days ahead, feet in areas of the Sierra, and then eventually some of this will come into Utah and also Colorado. And I know a lot of people have been asking, you know, what's next? And often when we get these storms on the West Coast, they move across the country, but not much this week. It's still, even in the middle of the week on Wednesday, record highs, middle of the country, East Coast is clear, still a little bit of mountain snow. We don't really see any of that moisture from the west head to the East Coast until Friday, and that looks like a rain event. So I know a lot of people keep asking me, Hallie, is winter over? I'm always afraid to say that because, you know, March can be really ugly in a lot of places.
Yeah, this might be a fool's spring here, you know.
Yes, first, second, third, false spring, yes.
Phil Cairns. We will see. Let's hope that no more wet weather is set to blast California, at least after that. Yeah. Thanks, Bill. Okay. So listen, let's take you down south because in just the last couple of hours, police are begging for videos of a highway from right around the time an 11-year-old girl went missing. Right now, they're optimistic that they can find her. Listen.
I'm hoping and praying that she's still alive. I am not giving up hope that we'll be able to bring Audrey home.
This is out of Polk County, about an hour and a half north of Houston. Here's what we know. Nobody's seen Audrey Cunningham since Thursday morning, when officials say she should have gotten on the school bus, but she never showed up to class that day. Police say she was last seen in a black hoodie with white letters and black pants. Morgan Chesky is joining us now from Dallas. What else do we know about this so-called person of interest here, Morgan?
Yeah, authorities being very clear to call him a person of interest, Hallie, and not a suspect right now. We do know that Don Stephen McDougal was arrested on Friday on an unrelated charge, that being aggravated assault. And we've learned a little bit more about him over the last 24 hours or so. Detectives say that he was seen driving a 2003 Chevy Suburban involved in this disappearance. Again, labeled as a person of interest here. He has a long criminal record, Hallie, and important to note, some of those charges include indecency with a child. He's been described by some investigators as a lifelong criminal. And as for why he's being called a person of interest and not a suspect, here's what the sheriff had to say in this investigation. Take a listen.
It does us no good to prematurely charge him now, and then 3-4 months from now it get tossed out of court because we were moving too fast. She deserves us taking our time. She deserves us making sure that we do it right. She deserves to have her voice to be heard.
And authorities saying right now that they've been able to recover certain pieces of evidence over the last weekend, but they're not sharing what they are right now. So this is very much an active investigation, Hallie.
Morgan Chesky live for us there in Texas. Morgan, I know so many people hoping that this little girl is found, and very soon. Thank you. So listen, just as we were walking into the studio, we're learning of an arrest, I should say, in the deadly shooting of 2 people in a dorm at the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs. Police say that this suspect is a 25-year-old man from Detroit. He's been booked on 2 counts of murder, charged with killing Samuel Knopp, a student at the university, and Celie Rain Montgomery, who was not a student. Police say it looks like everybody involved here might have known each other. Classes canceled today for a day of healing. Emily Aketa is joining us now. What else do we know about this suspect and how he was caught, Emily?
Hey there, Hallie. Well, as you can imagine, so much relief on site of the campus, Colorado Springs, the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs. Police have been searching for this suspect for several days since that Friday morning shooting that happened around 6 a.m. Police revealing that they took him into custody. 25-year-old Nicholas Jordan, they say, the murder suspect. They took him into custody just a few miles from the school campus around 8 a.m. today. He had been in a car. Still, the investigation very much active, but investigators are standing by their initial statements in that they believe that this was an isolated incident, that this was between parties, people who knew each other, but we still don't have any insight around the why, the motive in this shooting. Still panning out right now on the campus. While classes have been canceled, they have been taking part in what they deemed a healing walk. There were students, staff, police officers walking with flowers in memory of the victims. The victims were identified as 26-year-old Hallie Montgomery and 24-year-old Sam Knopp. At one point, one of his good friends taking to the microphone, this is what he had to say.
Ever since I got to school here, he has been the person I've spent the most time with. My brother, my roommate, and my friend.
The emotion, the heartbreak there, just palpable. Samuel Knopp was a student at UCCS. Hallie Montgomery, the other victim, she was not a student. She was a student previously at a local community college. That community college putting out a statement saying, in part, the Pueblo Community College family extends heartfelt condolences, going on to say these deaths and the ensuing unimaginable pain are happening much too often in an environment where teaching and learning should be our only concern. Still so many unanswered questions. We wait for additional updates, Hallie, from police.
Emily Aketa, thanks for staying on top of that one for us. Appreciate it. Overseas now, where the widow of Alexei Navalny is telling her fellow Russians to follow her as she takes steps into her husband's shoes, promising to keep up his battle against Russian President Vladimir Putin and demanding real, actual answers about his sudden death.
I will continue the work of Alexei Navalny. I will continue to fight for our country, and I urge you to stand next to me. By killing Alexei, Putin killed half of me, half of my heart and half of my soul. But I still have the other half, and it tells me that I have no right to give up.
Now, Navalny's legal team says his mother was denied access to her son's body. This is what you're looking at here. They say it's her trying to get into the morgue. They claim that Russian officials are stalling for time to give any potential poisons that may be inside his body time to disappear. Remember, the line from Russia is that Navalny collapsed and died suddenly Friday after taking a walk around the remote penal colony where he'd been in prison. Both Navalny's supporters and a whole lot of world leaders, including President Biden, say they just don't buy it. They're putting the blame directly on Putin. NBC's Matt Bodner is joining us now. Listen, we have this sort of very dramatic moment now from Navalny's widow, who says she is going to take this mantle from her husband. But his death seems to have shaken and scattered the opposition. So what is left for her to lead at this moment?
Thank you, Hallie. It's a great question. I think a good way to get into it is to maybe say a few words first about what made Alexei Navalny special compared to some of the other opposition leaders. There's been a number of figures over the years, but I think aside from kind of his personality, his charisma, his just kind of unending positivity, Navalny had ground game. He had a very kind of significant ability to organize people onto the streets, and that's not something that you see from a lot of his associates or other opposition-minded figures across the country. Opposition is a difficult word just because it's a catch-all for a lot of different political viewpoints that in some way or another have all opposed the regime in Russia for whatever reason. So I think the loss of Alexei Navalny has scattered the opposition in the sense that it has it removed the ground game from the Russian opposition. But that already happened 3 years ago when he returned to Russia. You know, we've seen within Russia a very kind of concerted effort to, after arresting him upon his return, systemically dismantle his entire network, basically chase everyone out of the country who had worked for Navalny, and those who stayed ended up being harassed or jailed as well. Some other opposition leaders who were already abroad, who were kind of in Navalny's circle after he returned to Russia, also, were faced with this question how to take up the mantle. Some went back to Russia and followed his example. They're in jail now as well. So Yulia Navalnaya is now kind of emerging into this situation where the Russian opposition in Russia at this point is nothing, I'd say, to do with Navalny's camp, maybe actively. What we're seeing on the ground in Russia is a lot of grassroots stuff that's kind of unrelated. Over the past year, there have been more than one example of, for example, soldiers' widows or mothers of dead soldiers trying to organize anti-war single-issue campaigns that, of course, have been kept far away from any ballots, and we're not going to see anybody representing those types of views next year. But basically, the Russian opposition has spent the last year in exile trying to have this discussion about what it means to be Russian during the war, a Russian who opposes Vladimir Putin. And it'll be interesting to see if Yulia Navalnaya can kind of refocus the debate. And I think that's something that she's trying to do now, Hallie.
But what about this international pressure here on Russia? Because world leaders, as we've said, many of them in the Western world, have condemned Navalny's death very clearly, pointing the finger at Putin here. How much does that resonate inside the Kremlin?
That is a good question. I mean, there's this whole issue of motive. There's a lot that we sort of don't know about what specifically happened here. It's certainly looking a certain way, given their behavior with the body and previous behavior. Last time we know that they did try to assassinate him, and it's all very curiously timed. But if it was another poisoning, as of course Navalny's camp is openly signaling at this point that that's what they believe happened here, timing of it quite interesting. You have most of the Western security and political establishment over the weekends, with the Russian opposition figures in exile, by the way, receiving and digesting this news and trying to figure out how to move forward from here. Russia, of course, has done a number of things over the past 2 years to incur the wrath of the international community. There, as President Biden said on day one, on Friday, when we heard that Navalny had died in prison, that you know, consequences have Russia's already incurred a lot of consequences. And so it's kind of, you're looking now, what additionally can you do to punish Russia for this? And the list, of course, is getting shorter. There are options to the White House and other governments, certainly, if they wish to escalate things further. The Navalny camp for years has actually been advocating a list of names that they would like to see directly targeted for their role in all of this. So it'll, of course, be interesting not only to see how this all impacts the Russian opposition in exile, but this ongoing debate about what the West should do about Russia. Hallie?
Matt Bodner, we're glad to have you covering this one for us with your knowledge and expertise of that country. Appreciate it. As we talk about Russia, it looks like after months of asking, Ukraine is getting closer to getting long-range missiles from the U.S. to use against Russia, according to what two U.S. officials tell NBC News exclusively. Remember, late last year, the U.S. started to give Ukraine this older, medium-range kind of missile. But now the Biden administration is leaning towards sending a longer-range version, per those sources, missiles that would let Ukraine hit farther inside the Crimean Peninsula. You see it here on the screen, currently held by Russia. There's a big roadblock to all this, however, because military aid for Ukraine right now seems to be in limbo. Some Republicans in Congress, specifically some allies of former President Trump, they don't want to send that money over. They don't want that aid money to be greenlit. All of it happening as Russia says its troops have captured a key Ukrainian city in the east, which, you see it there, drastically shifts the front lines of this war. Aaron Gilchrist is joining us now. There had been a resistance from the Biden administration to sending these long-range missiles since this Russian invasion of Ukraine began. There is a shift now that seems to be propelled by what's happening on the battlefield. Talk through that.
Yeah, conditions are changing. And in the last couple of weeks in particular, we've seen Ukraine have a harder time with some of the advances that it seemed to have been making in the months prior to that. You mentioned this latest area that's been taken by Russia, Avdiivka, and that's a sign that Ukraine is starting to suffer some losses. And a lot of people are assigning those losses to the fact that the U.S. has not been able to offer an aid package to Ukraine since the end of last year as a result of the stalemate that we're seeing in Congress right now. The Ukrainians have suggested that that is firepower that it needs in order to be able to continue on. The U.S. had been in a position where it was really offering Ukraine defensive materials early on, but we've seen, particularly over the last year, how some of that position has softened for the U.S., and we've started to see some weapons and weapon systems be offered that are more offensive in nature. And now we're learning from sources that we are now, the U.S. is now looking at the potential for giving Ukraine these long-range missiles that would allow it to target Russian ammunition depots and logistics systems that are inside Ukraine right now, Hallie.
Aaron Gilchrist live for us there outside the White House, covering all of it. Thank you. Tonight, historic hearings at The Hague. Hearings the Israeli prime minister now says his country will not recognize, as more than a dozen international judges consider the legality of the Israel-Hamas war. We saw earlier the Palestinian foreign minister opening what's going to be a week of these hearings by saying Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. Israel says it's defending itself after the terror attack against it October 7th. But now all eyes are turning to Ramadan, which begins in a few weeks, because Israel says it wants all hostages released by then. That's March 10th. Otherwise, They're threatening to attack Rafah. You see it here, where more than 1 million Gazans are trying to find shelter from the war. Remember, it's not just this specific area. We've been talking about how this war has been widening across the Middle East. And now perhaps the latest example of that, with U.S. officials saying a drone has gone down in Yemen. It's not clear why. Raf Sanchez is joining us from Tel Aviv. Let's talk about this sort of March 10th deadline here. Based on where hostage negotiations stand right now, doesn't seem super likely. Is there potential for a reason to be optimistic here?
Doesn't look super likely, Hallie. These negotiations seem stalled. CIA Director Bill Burns was in Cairo last week. He was sitting with officials from Egypt, Qatar, and Israel. There was real hope that we might see a breakthrough, the first ceasefire deal since late November, the first hostages coming out as a result of negotiations since then. These talks appear to have ground to a halt. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu pulling his negotiators out of Cairo, bringing them back to Israel, saying that Hamas's demands at this point on the number of prisoners that Israel needs to release from its jails, on ending the war altogether instead of a temporary ceasefire. Netanyahu says these demands are, quote, delusional, and that there is no point in talking until Hamas shifts its position. A lot of concern worldwide about this fighting dragging on into the Islamic holy month of Ramadan. And Hallie, it is worth noting it is not just Gaza that there is concern about. Israel is considering restrictions on Muslim worshippers at the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem, third holiest site in Islam. And there's real worry that Jerusalem, which has been relatively quiet throughout this war, could see an eruption of violence around that mosque. Hallie.
As we're watching that, what do we know about this American drone shot down in Yemen?
So two U.S. officials tell our colleague Courtney Kube it is not clear at this point whether this drone was shot down. It went down near the port city of Hodeidah in western Yemen. That is in Houthi-held territory. And what it underscores, Hallie, whether or not the Houthis shot this drone down, they remain defiant. The U.S., with help from the U.K., has been bombing them for weeks now, both strategic strikes against their facilities, also kind of ad hoc strikes against individual missiles here and there. And the Houthis continue firing at commercial shipping in the Red Sea. They do not appear deterred, and it does not at this point seem like the Biden administration has a real strategy to get them to stop. Hallie?
Raf Sanchez, live for us in Tel Aviv. Thank you. A lot more to get to here on the show, including where officials say a measles outbreak is spreading here. Plus, what's turning the sky orange in some parts of China. Look at that. A new study out today is linking a higher risk of heart disease and stroke with something that's in the multivitamins we buy all the time in store, something you may take every day, vitamin B3. It's also known as niacin. It's been recommended by doctors to help lower cholesterol. It's pretty common in the stuff we eat: meat, fish, nuts, beans, brown rice, fortified cereals. And researchers say it's that last one, fortified cereals, that may be the problem. Because the average American is getting too much niacin, nearly 3 times the recommended daily amount. Dr. Kavita Patel is joining us now. So this is an interesting one, right? Yeah. Because in some ways it turns out there may be too much of a good thing here. Explain that.
Yeah, it is. So niacin actually helps us take food and make energy in our bodies.
So we need it.
That's a good thing. But what researchers are finding is that possibly the byproduct of digesting the niacin creates something that triggers inflammation and causes heart disease and strokes. So getting to the too much can be a bad thing. And it is exactly as you point out, Hallie. It's the fortified cereals, also in breads and a lot of grains. That's why we're trying to recommend people look at the labels to see how much niacin is in there and in any multivitamin that people are taking.
Isn't fortified cereal just like basically most cereal?
Every cereal. Yeah. And it's what you tell, honestly, for years, we tell people to take these fortified cereals so they can get niacin, because in previous decades, people were not getting enough niacin and they were having problems. So we want to prevent that. And we thought niacin would be good for cholesterol. So it helps to lower cholesterol, but as you point out, some of it, if it's toxic amounts, can be too bad.
So now the pendulum has swung in the other direction here. And the researchers on this study tell NBC News they don't know where to draw the line specifically between healthy and unhealthy amounts of niacin. They've got to do some more research on that. So while they're all figuring out, while these experts are doing that work, should we be like not taking multivitamins? Should we be watching how much cereal you eat? Like, what's a takeaway?
We should be looking at how much you're getting in a day. Okay. So we know that the average adult needs about, if you're not pregnant, about 14 milligrams of what we call niacin equivalent. So you can look on any label, and if you're getting like 2 to 3 times that amount, that's probably what all of us are getting because of the fortification and cereals and other things and a multivitamin. Yeah. But some people are getting 40 times that amount. That's too much. So you definitely want to look at the ingredients on your multivitamin. The most common range is 20 to 40 milligrams. Anything higher than that, I would pause, talk to your doctor, and also see if there's some reason that you could be in toxicity. It's not just heart attacks and strokes. You can see early signs like low blood pressure and some other symptoms. Wow. Absolutely go to your doctor and see if it's something you should be tested for.
Dr. Patel, thank you so much. Great breakdown. Appreciate it. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, some kind of threat was made toward an Air Canada flight earlier today, according to officials. You see it here. Look at this. People getting off the plane. Nobody was reported hurt, but you had police dogs, security, etc., searching, sniffing the luggage there. At one point, the dog ends up loaded into the cargo hold there. Officials say they did clear the aircraft, but they're still investigating what exactly happened. Number 2, Florida health officials have a health advisory out after multiple cases of measles were confirmed in an elementary school. A school now getting a deep cleaning, getting its air filters replaced. Measles is very contagious, and the CDC says getting vaxxed is the best way to protect yourself. Number 3, in a new interview, the family of former President Jimmy Carter says his spirit is as strong as ever as he marks 1 year in hospice care. His wife, Rosalind, died in November. Now, at age 99, Carter is the oldest living U.S. president in history. He has survived both brain and liver cancer. Number 4, want to see the next solar eclipse? Want to see it from the sky? Well, Delta is offering you the opportunity to do just that. A special flight, April 8th, from Austin to Detroit. It's supposed to give you the best view of that eclipse. The plane itself is going to have some big windows. It'll be the last total eclipse we're going to see in North America until 2044. Number 5, the musical inspired by Gwyneth Paltrow's infamous ski trial is coming to this country, according to Variety. It's called Gwyneth Goes Skiing. It premiered in London, but the show is getting its American debut right where it all began, in Utah. New performers, including Darren Criss, are also going to be added to this soundtrack. So listen, we are now just 5 days out from South Carolina's Republican primaries, where the state's former governor is going to make what could be her last stand against former President Trump. And tonight, Nikki Haley is attacking Mr. Trump, sharpening her tone for his comments around the death of Alexei Navalny, that Russian opposition leader we talked about earlier in the show, and his apparent support of Vladimir Putin over NATO. Listen.
That means Trump is siding with a thug. He sided with a tyrant who's made no bones about wanting to destroy America. And you're going to side with something like that over the allies who stood with us at 9/11? What are we doing?
Haley, there, likely referring to comments like this one from the former president earlier today, where he seemed to essentially compare Navalny's death to his own political and legal issues. No mention there of Russian leader Vladimir Putin, whom President Biden has blamed for Navalny's death. When you look at what's happening politically between Haley and Donald Trump, he's got a pretty solid double-digit lead in every South Carolina poll as she's made some of these campaign stops today. But her busy schedule shows she is not giving up, maybe hoping that this sharper anti-Trump message will help her Saturday. NBC's Dasha Burns is following this one for us. Oh, closing argument. Let's talk about it, because it feels like this NATO foreign policy Russia issue is at the center of it right now. What's interesting is that what Nikki Haley just said, what we just heard, kind of sounds like something President Biden might say, right? Talk about the rationale here from the Haley camp and how much GOP voters are looking at this issue.
Not much is the answer I would give you from all of my time on the campaign trail, Hallie. And this is what's so interesting about Haley. This is what makes her a great general election candidate, right? There are a whole lot of Democrats, moderates, moderate Republicans that are absolutely on board with this. But she really is using the playbook of Republicans past, or maybe even modern conservative Democrats, but not the GOP majority, not the base that she needs to win over, especially in South Carolina, which is a state that since she left office, since she left the governor's mansion there, has become much redder, much more MAGA, much more Trump country. So issues like NATO, like funding Ukraine, all of her foreign policy chops, while they may resonate in a general election, it's why she's doing so well head-to-head with Biden in those polls, don't resonate with a Republican primary voter, and it's why she's got an almost impossibly large hill to climb here.
Well, you talk about that hill. Nikki Haley has set her own bar for where she needs to be in climbing that hill, right? She is expectation management goes. She has been pretty clear about what the expectation is. I want to remind people of what she told our friend and colleague Kristen Welker on Meet the Press not too long ago.
We started with 2% in Iowa. We ended up with 20%. We got to New Hampshire. We needed to do better than that. And we did. We got 43% of the vote. Now we're going into South Carolina. We need to be stronger than what we did in New Hampshire. And so that's certainly what we need to do.
Okay, so she's saying, Dasha, we need to be stronger than what we did in New Hampshire, where she got 43%. So she's looking at, let's be generous, at 43, 44%. Let's even say 40%. She hasn't broken 40 in a single poll recently. It is possible, right, that Saturday night, despite Haley's campaign insisting that they're in this through Super Tuesday, it is possible that Saturday night ends up being perhaps the last stand in this Republican primary.
Yeah, look, we've heard this story before. We saw it just a couple of months ago with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. He said he was going to win Iowa. Then he came up way, way short. Even after that, he said, hey, we're going to go on. We're going to go to New Hampshire. We'll go to Super Tuesday. A few days later, he was out of the race. So candidates have to say what they have to say in the moment, but that does not mean that's the reality that we're going to see. And the thing that Nikki Haley needs to think about, she is young. She has a potential political future. If you lose by that big a margin, say, you know, what you were talking about, say she even gets to 40 points, right? Still a big margin in your home state. That could potentially harm your future political chances, not just here in the primary. So that's something important for her to think about. And if she decides to stay in even longer through Super Tuesday, that just gives Trump more and more opportunity to knock her.
It does create an interesting split screen here, Dasha, because on the one hand, you've got Nikki Haley in some ways fighting for her political life at the moment. On the other hand, you have former President Trump selling gold sneakers now, right? I mean, it says a lot about the state of the race.
Yeah, it says that Trump thinks he's in the general election at this point. He's kind of been pivoting towards that ever since Iowa. He's been taking on Biden more and more heavily. You see him attacking the president at his rallies, not even talking very much about Nikki Haley. The term bird brain, which is a nickname he'd given her, not hearing much about that because he seems to have largely moved on, even as Haley has basically over the last week, Hallie, unleashed a full arsenal of attacks, be it NATO, be it the border, military families. She's throwing all she can at him right now, but he's Teflon Don at the moment, according to the polls. Hallie?
Dasha Burns, thank you very much. We're going to have all of it, of course, covered on Saturday night with our South Carolina primary coverage. I will see you there 6 o'clock Eastern on Saturday, joined by our team fanned out across the state, by our analysts, by our political pros. That's right here on NBC News Now. I will see you Saturday night. I will also see you in just a minute, because when we come back, a lot more to get to, including new details tonight about a potential suspect after 3 first responders were killed in a domestic violence call. Plus, what triggered a deadly landslide in Afghanistan. Some breaking news coming into us here tonight. We're just learning in the last hour or so that the deaths of 3 first responders in Minnesota are being declared homicides. These people killed while responding to a domestic violence call, or in the governor's words, a call to a family in danger. Police now know that family included 7 children, the youngest 2, the oldest 15. The officers first got the call yesterday morning that a man had barricaded himself inside with a gun, and with those kids, SWAT teams and officers in tactical gear negotiated for hours to try to get the attacker to surrender. But officials say he started shooting. The 3 men you see here, 2 police officers and a firefighter, were killed. Paul Amstrand, Matthew Rouge, Adam Finseth. One other officer was also shot, but was released from the hospital today and is expected to be okay. The man inside was eventually reported dead. The family, safe. Now, the medical examiner has confirmed that that man, the shooter, is 38-year-old Shannon Gooden. They did not say his cause of death. Court documents show he wasn't even allowed to have a gun in the first place because of a previous conviction. But we also don't know what led to all of this in the first place. Maggie Vespa has been following all of it. She is joining us now live, and there are still so many questions about this. Maggie, walk us through some of these late-breaking details and what else we're still looking for.
Yeah, Hallie, these details about who authorities now say is the shooter, 38-year-old Shannon Cortez Gooden, really help paint much broader and much more detailed of a picture of what actually went down there, or at least what could have led up to it. As you said, Gooden was not allowed to have weapons legally because of conviction back in 2008. He was convicted of second-degree felony assault with a deadly weapon and subsequently lost his right to possess firearms. His records also show that he had 2 orders of protection against him, one for domestic abuse, another for domestic assault. And in 2017, court records show the mother of at least one of his children alleged that, this is one example here, he headbutted her in the face and then threw her down the stairs. So again, his records are disturbing and they're complex. Fast forward to 2019, almost 11 years after that early conviction, he actually, records show, petitioned the court to restore his right to own firearms, telling them that he'd like to be able to protect his family, and he completed an anger management course as well as a parenting course. He also said at the time he had 5 kids ranging in ages from 11 months to 11 years old. And then in addition to that 5, he was caring for 2 children of one of his girlfriends. Obviously, that would add up to 7. So learning a lot about the man who the medical examiner now says was found dead. They believe him to be the gunman. Hallie, what we still don't know, unfortunately, is what exactly happened on Sunday, right? Like, how did this even start? How did it escalate to the point that it did? And at this point, authorities not even saying how Gooden ended up dead. So all of that information we're still waiting on as this incredibly disturbing case, this now triple homicide, right, continues unfolding.
You call it incredibly disturbing, Maggie. I mean, that is the reflection of what I know our teams have been hearing from people on the ground. Talk about this community, because there have been memorials, there have been tributes for these fallen first responders here.
Yeah, and this just barely happened 24 hours ago. I mean, this community is really feeling the pain. This is a suburb, for those not familiar, Burnsville, Minnesota. It's a suburb of Minneapolis. It's like 15 minutes south of Minneapolis. And almost immediately, we saw flowers being left outside the police station. We saw a salute memorial from first responders gathering together in the morning. I also want to show some video, if our team can pull it up, from our affiliate CARE in Minneapolis, aerial video, chopper video of the casket of the firefighter in this case, 40-year-old Adam Finseth, being transported to a funeral home. Even that was breaking news, top headlines in the area, because everybody's so invested in these 3 first responders they've now lost. Just to kind of paint the picture of what we're hearing about them, Paul Elmstrand, a 27-year-old Burnsville police officer. He was part of the department's mobile command staff, our affiliate reports. And before that, he helped in a program with teenagers who wanted to join wanted to have a career in law enforcement eventually. Matthew Ruge, also 27 years old, also a police officer. He was part of their crisis negotiating team, so you can imagine what role he would have had there yesterday. And then Adam Finseth, it was reported, was helping a wounded officer at the scene when he, Hallie, was shot and killed. So people there just obviously stunned, grieving, and trying to piece together how this could have happened.
Maggie Vespa, thank you so much for your reporting tonight. NBC News covers hundreds of international stories every day. And because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our international teams have done it for you. Here are some of what they're watching in a segment we call The Global. Out of Afghanistan, at least 24 people have been killed. Several others have been hurt after a landslide ripped through a village there. Tons of rain and a big snow is being blamed for this, for what led up to this landslide. Dozens of homes were destroyed. You can see some of the aftermath there. Out of China, some big sandstorms are taking over the northwest part of the country. That's why the sky there is so orange. Makes it so hard to see as people are trying to direct traffic around. China's news broadcaster says the storms are probably going to last for the next few days. And out of France, the Eiffel Tower shut down today because of a strike. A union leader says the employees want more money to match up with what they expect the Eiffel Tower will take in during the Olympics. Officials say visitors did get a heads up about the strike beforehand. Tonight, Apple's new virtual reality headset has been on sale for a little over 2 weeks now, and they cost a pretty penny, $3,000 for one of these things. But the reviews from users are coming in, and they're not so hot. Here's Sam Brock.
I hate to say it, but I'm actually returning Apple Vision Pro. Here's why.
Since the Apple Vision Pro debuted earlier this month,
it's not comfortable. It does not replace this.
Some Apple fanatics and early adopters are explaining why they chose to return the red-hot headwear within the 14-day window allowed.
If I wear this for more than 2 hours, I get a real bad migraine and my forehead just starts to hurt.
Even though some are blown away by its immersive features, the complaints ranging from a lack of comfort to limited options for apps to a price tag that can easily touch north of $4,000. The Wall Street Journal's Joanna Stern reviewed the product.
I think part of one of the reasons these returns are happening is people get into the store and they're like,
holy, wow, this is amazing. And then they get home and then they realize, I'm not going to use this thing so much. And I paid a lot of money.
That wow factor convinced Luke Miani it was a worthwhile investment.
I think they absolutely knocked it out of the park with just interacting with non-existent windows that appear to be floating in midair.
But Mark Zuckerberg, not impressed, comparing the Apple Vision Pro to his Meta Quest 3.
I don't just think the Quest is the better value. I think the Quest is the better product, period.
As for the users showing up on the subway and even dinners with Apple Vision Pros on,
hey bud, I want some. What's up with the pinchers?
Miani called this kind of dystopian and likely not useful.
Why bring it out to dinner with 3 of your good friends?
I mean, it wasn't practical at all, but it was very fun.
Sam Brock, NBC News.
Thanks to Sam for that. Coming up here on the show, a lot more to get to, including the number of black cardiologists, very low. And now, a new push to try to change that. That's next in tonight's Original. So tonight's Original now with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been watching. And tonight, it's the new moves by the American Academy of Cardiology, because black Americans are 30% more likely than white Americans to die of heart disease. But when they go for an exam, odds are their heart doctor is not black. It's because the number of black cardiologists, especially women, is extremely low, with experts now looking for ways to change that. Here's Dr. Natalie Azar.
How are you doing? Good.
Dr. Mary Branch has spent a decade learning one of the most challenging specialties in medicine. Hours in the hospital and clinic to become a cardiologist. And she's in a rare group, female black cardiologists.
Cardiology is not only challenging from a learning perspective, it's just physically very, very hard. You're dealing with life and death scenarios on a consistent basis.
The specialty can be hard for anyone, but for Branch, it goes past just medicine. She wants to be there for her community. A recent study shows that just 3% of all cardiologists in the U.S. are African American.
It's pretty abysmal. When I talk about the numbers of hypertension, obesity, the importance of establishing relationships, how many people we need to make those changes, that's scary.
When patients see someone that looks like them, there is often an established trust and connection.
We share a culture with these folks. They don't have to explain a lot of things about their culture, where they come from.
African Americans are 30% more likely to die from heart disease than white Americans. Nikita Oxner knows this firsthand. Her brother died from heart disease caused by high blood pressure. And she's seen Dr. Branch for more than a year, once she learned of her heart murmur through a sleep study.
Talking to a black cardiologist just kind of calmed my fears, because I'm talking to someone who knows about the health issues within my community, right, who's very experienced and also very calming.
Oxner had a small battery-powered device called an implantable cardioverter defibrillator, or ICD, placed into her chest. Before the operation, she was afraid, but trusted her doctor.
When it came to getting this ICD, she called it a little hospital or little emergency room in your chest.
Now with the ICD in place, she's getting back to how life was before.
She's guided me through this entire process, and now I'm on the other side of it.
Now, medical groups say the next step is to see more stories like Nikita's.
Is the American College of Cardiology starting any initiatives to address this?
We actually have a program called the Young Scholars Program.
The program starts in high school, spanning through college to help recruit more black students and minorities into cardiology.
It gives them a very nice sort of supportive feeling that there are resources out there to kind of make it to the next step.
Becoming a cardiologist, like Dr. Branch.
It was something that was implanted in my heart. Every day you have impacted somebody's life and extended their life in some way. That is just profound.
Dr. Azar is joining us now. Dr. Natalie, you talk about the numbers, right? It's just astonishing. Only 3% of cardiologists are black. Talk about the metrics here for this Young Scholars program. Do they have a quantifiable number or goal they're trying to hit?
You know, that's such a great question. And the answer is no, not really. You know, I asked Dr. Eccles what his best guess was in terms of the time frame that we could see sort of a sea shift. And, you know, we kind of both said it's probably going to be at least a generation. You know, he spoke a lot about the social determinants of health, which we all know, and sort of this disadvantage that a lot of communities of color start off with at a really, really young age, which is why this program is so amazing, because it's really trying to get kids excited from the earliest possible time when to plant that seed about science and medicine, and specifically cardiology. And there's a lot of great people who are working on this initiative with him, and I do expect the numbers to change, but I think it's going to take some time, Hallie, just like a lot of these things. But I think the effort is definitely there, and clearly the need is there. He spoke a lot about something called concordant care, which is when you look at your doctor, you can see something in them that's familiar, and it works both ways, and it really does make a difference for patients and their outcomes, Hallie.
Dr. Nally Azar, thank you so much for bringing us that story, for shining a light on this. Thanks. Still to come, why the new Major League Baseball jerseys are going viral for all the wrong reasons.
Baseball fans, some of them players, furious tonight, saying MLB is kicking off spring training with something that is not a good look. Literally. We're talking about the league's new jerseys. Check it out side by side here. This is one example from the Seattle Mariners. You got the new ones here on the right, old ones on the left. You see the MLB logo. This is what people are upset about, right? They're saying like the MLB logo kind of crowds it a little bit. It moved down. The names are a lot smaller on the new ones. The numbers are pressed on instead of stitched on. Like, listen, this is subtle stuff, but the changes did not lower the cost at all. If you want to wear what the players wear, it's still going to cost you something like $400. And even some of those players are mad, roasting these jerseys, saying the color's off, that they don't fit right, like they're not custom anymore to their body shapes, even that they look like a Walmart jersey. Kurt Badenhausen covers sports business for Sportico. This isn't simply a matter of optics or the fit, right? There is a huge business behind this from Nike and Fanatics, because players, fans, teams, they all invest a lot of money in making sure they have the look, right?
Yeah, you go to any baseball game, you see what a big business jerseys are. You have people decked out throughout the stadium wearing these jerseys. This is a multi-billion-dollar business across sports. And for Nike and Fanatics, this is certainly big business. Nike signed on in 2019, $1 billion deal over 10 years. So they engineered and designed these jerseys. Fanatics manufactured them. So they're both in the doghouse right now with Major League Baseball players.
And by the way, this isn't something that is just like people are grumbling about kind of on a low level. The roasting has reached the highest level of Major League Baseball, with the commissioner now having to come out to defend these jerseys. And the big picture here, right? And you mentioned that the company, Fanatics, is here to stay. You talked about that $1 billion MLB deal after the company bought the old uniform supplier back in 2017. So no matter how much fans may say like they don't like them, they're not going anywhere.
They're definitely not going anywhere. Fanatics is 100% here to stay. They have the league licensing deal with Major League Baseball, NFL, NHL, NBA, F1, USGA. I mean, you name it, Fanatics is basically the only spot right now for licensing. But Rob Manfred is correct. Any change in baseball gets almost immediately pushback, and particularly the uniforms, the Yankee pinstripes and the Dodger. All these things are steeped in history. So any kind of changes, you're going to have pushback. But players are saying that they like the lightweight feel. They just look cheap. That's the problem here.
But you're still paying $400, right?
Well, that's the problem. Looking cheap is okay if it costs you $29.99. But for an authentic jersey to spend over $400, and you're looking at something that looks like a replica jersey and a knockoff. So Fanatics has been the crosshairs for a long time. Fans aren't necessarily always that happy with the product. They feel like it's cheaper than some of the licensed goods that they're used to buying in previous decades, but they've absolutely cornered the market. So they're the really only game in town.
Kurt Badenhausen, always good to see you, our friend over there at Sportico. Appreciate it. Thank you. That does it for us for this hour. We've got a lot more coverage starting right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app, or follow us on social media.